Sitting at my desk, anger and frustration consume me. The past year has been a blur, with the pandemic keeping my son away from me for the entire summer. I seethe at the thought of being robbed of precious time with him, and just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I discovered that my wife of 5 years had been unfaithful. The mere mention of her name fills me with rage. For the past few months, I've played detective, trying to uncover the truth about her affair. But every lead is like opening a can of worms, revealing more lies and deceit. And to add insult to injury, this woman who betrayed me has been in my own home, pretending like nothing is wrong. The thought makes me want to scream, throw everything at her. My lawyer keeps telling me to be patient, but how can I when I haven't slept in my own bed for nearly 2 months? As soon as she's gone, I'll burn the sheets tainted by her presence. Not only have I been deprived of physical intimacy, but her accusations of my infidelity are like salt in the wound. The sight of her trying to hug or kiss me makes my stomach churn, but I must play along until this nightmare is over. As I gaze at her, my skin crawls with the sensation of tiny bugs skittering across it. I want her out of my sight, but I can't bring myself to make it happen just yet. My fuse is burning low, but there's still a bit left to ignite. It feels like being trapped in a cavernous room with only one other person, and a single table to break up the empty space. Their incessant tapping on the wooden surface echoes off the walls, driving me to the brink of madness. All I want to do is flip the table and silence them forever. But for now, I can't even confide in anyone about my feelings because it's not time yet. Everything is still building to a breaking point. I'm filled with anger and disappointment towards myself for allowing someone to have this power over me once again. I just want this cycle to end. And as much as I try to push him from my mind, thoughts of my son tug at my heartstrings and leave a painful ache in my chest. Update number 1. I'll also provide some context from my wife's browsing history. Yes, I'll admit to spying, which shows that she hasn't used Reddit in 6 months. At this point, I don't even care anymore. My hands are clenched tightly, my knuckles turning white as I try to hold myself together. To anyone who has discovered their partner's infidelity and kept quiet until they got their revenge, you have my utmost admiration. This is fucking hard. When I finally arrived home on Sunday night, after a grueling 1,400-mile drive, I was relieved. The last thing I wanted was to see or talk to my wife. Exhausted, I made my way straight to my chair and fell asleep. The next morning, Monday, my wife attempted to initiate physical intimacy, but I just couldn't bring myself to get aroused by her anymore. Every morning, without fail, my member is up and ready before me, so this is not a physical issue. It's simply that for once, my body is in total agreement with my mind and heart, and neither of them want anything to do with her. Emotionally drained and physically exhausted, I've lost 15 pounds and feel like a complete shit, but those 8 hours of sleep were the best reprieve I've had in a long time. Her words struck me like a slap to the face, igniting a fierce and heated argument. I could feel my heart racing and my palms growing sweaty as she accused me of cheating on her once again. My 50-year-old body felt weak and vulnerable, unable to defend against this constant doubt and mistrust from my wife. Her insinuations cut deep, questioning my love and loyalty while I struggled to understand what was happening to us. She claimed that I hadn't been a good husband, listing off grievances like ammunition in a war that I didn't even know we were fighting. It had been over 2 months since we last made love, and even longer since I had said those 3 little words that once came so easily to me. In her eyes, there was no logical explanation for this sudden change in our relationship except for infidelity. She was trying to gaslight me, making me question my own sanity and morality as she spun her web of lies. But what she didn't know was that I had been piecing everything together for weeks now. D-Day, as I called it, was September 25th. As a collision repair specialist, I often dealt with vehicles that were considered train wrecks, just like our marriage. On that fateful day, while working on a particularly damaged truck, I accidentally sliced open my leg. The pain was excruciating and blood poured out like a river. My co-workers rushed me to the emergency room where 5 stitches were sewn inside my leg and 34 on the outside. It was a gruesome sight, but nothing compared to the agony I felt inside. The doctor prescribed me with heavy painkillers, and there was no way I could drive home in that state. So instead of coming home to comfort my wife and reassure her of my love, I found myself alone in a hospital bed, feeling physically and emotionally broken. Little did she know, I was doing something behind her back. I was trying to heal and make sense of this train wreck that had become our marriage. Her words struck me like a slap to the face, igniting a fierce and heated argument. I could feel my heart racing and my palms growing sweaty as she accused me of cheating on her once again. My 50-year-old body felt weak and vulnerable, unable to defend against this constant doubt and mistrust from my wife. Her insinuations cut deep, questioning my love and loyalty while I struggled to understand what was happening to us. She claimed that I hadn't been a good husband, listing off grievances like ammunition in a war that I didn't even know we were fighting. It had been over 2 months since we last made love, and even longer since I had said those 3 little words that once came so easily to me. In her eyes, there was no logical explanation for this sudden change in our relationship except for infidelity. She was trying to gaslight me, making me question my own sanity and morality as she spun her web of lies. In that moment of fiery emotion, I grabbed my phone and thrust it towards her, determined to make her see the truth. I showed her the chat log, filled with unanswered messages from me to her. My voice, usually calm and collected, cracked as I shouted at her about the time when I needed her most, and she had abandoned me without a word of explanation. She pulled out her phone and glanced at it, then left house for a few hours. When she returned, she apologized, but I could see the lingering hint of deceit in her eyes. As she spoke, lies dripped from her lips like poison. In the days that followed that explosive argument, I couldn't help but snoop through her belongings, her phone, laptop, iPad, searching for any evidence of her infidelity, and what I found tore my heart apart. I discovered that she didn't just dislike my son, she harbored a deep-seated hatred for him. Her disdain for him was so strong because he disrupted her desired lifestyle whenever he came to stay in our home during summers. But that wasn't all. This affair had been going on for years with multiple men, including one who was a close friend and co-worker of mine for over 14 years. He worked with his wife, who also played a role in helping my wife hide the affair with another man, her boss. They had introduced us and witnessed our proposal and wedding, all while knowing she was cheating on me with multiple partners behind my back, and to add insult to injury, they let me marry this woman, fully aware of her infidelity. As I watched the footage from the cameras I had installed in our house, I couldn't help but feel a mix of anger, betrayal, and heartache at the depth of their deception. I know of 4 men. 2 I am familiar with, 2 I do not know at all. They have desecrated my bed, defiled my couch, and stained my kitchen table where I eat. The remnants of their lust still linger in the shower as they carelessly used my soap to wash away their sins. When I retreated to my hunting property for a weekend of solace, I invited her along, as I always do, but she declined, preferring instead to stay in our home and engage in infidelity. Returning home, I bore witness to a parade of men passing through my house, each one bedding my wife without so much as a thought for our sacred vows. And she did not even bother to shower between them, a disgusting display of her lack of remorse. The same occurred when I traveled to Chicago for Thanksgiving. She spent the entire weekend inviting other men into our home and our marriage bed. For 2 months, I have kept these heinous acts to myself, until finally confiding in my ex-girlfriend about the truth. Though outwardly calm and composed, inside I seethe with rage. I almost confronted her about her unfaithfulness, but instead chose to swallow her lies and apologize for our argument. Foolishly, I even offered to make an appointment with a doctor for my erectile dysfunction, only to discover her text messages to her boss referring to me as a limp dick and eagerly anticipating Friday's rendezvous. This is not the woman I fell in love with 7 years ago. Somewhere along the way, she has transformed into a deceptive and manipulative creature, perhaps due to severe mental health issues, or simply because she is a sociopath. Regardless, this is not what I signed up for. Asking her to marry me was an incredibly difficult decision for me. After my first divorce, I struggled to trust any kind words from women, haunted by the trauma of my previous marriage and its aftermath. I have even pushed away 2 amazing women in my life because of the lingering damage from that first relationship, not just because my ex-wife did not truly love me. I was left with nothing. No home, no car, no means to support myself, and minimal support from family, forced to couch surf for 3 years as all of my earnings went towards alimony and debt payments. At just 22 years old, my life was shattered before it had a chance to truly begin, and on my 24th birthday, I found myself drunkenly sobbing on a friend's couch with a gun in my mouth, feeling utterly hopeless with no light at the end of the tunnel. The memory of that day still weighs heavy on my mind, a constant reminder of the lowest point I have ever reached. I keep $43 in my wallet as a symbol of that moment, a reminder to never let myself sink so low again. Though I am not in the same place now, it feels eerily similar, perhaps wiser and more cautious this time, but still filled with the same pain and betrayal. I remember catching them in the act, having to come home early from a trip to discover the truth. The gaslighting was unbearable, her denying what was right in front of me and then screaming for me to stop as I lashed out at my brother and his friend. But at least it was over. There were no more lies or denials. Despite all the therapy I had gone through, it seemed like everything had been erased. But this time around, the deceit is slow and insidious, a constant stream of lies, even when there is no need for them. It feels like every time I blink, she has betrayed me with another man. My love for this woman has long since died. There will be no repairing this relationship. I have checked out and moved on. My wedding anniversary now marks a day of infamy, like Pearl Harbor Day, and I intend to make sure she remembers it too. The seconds drag by like hours, each one adding to my exhaustion and pounding headache. All those years of therapy seem pointless now. Nothing can erase this pain and hurtful deceit. Update number 2. Yesterday was the day I finally took control and ended this misery that had consumed me for far too long. I couldn't bring myself to write about it then, and even now, as I try to put my thoughts into words, I still struggle to find the strength. The morning began with a heavy weight on my chest. I left the house, craving some sense of normalcy, and grabbed breakfast while waiting for her to leave for work. As soon as she was gone, I rented a truck and headed back home. With the help of a close friend and her husband, we loaded up all of her belongings into the truck, the bedroom furniture that I had gifted her as a wedding present, my couch, my dining table. We took everything to storage and bagged up her clothes, including the dirty ones that I wanted to throw in, with the clean but was stopped by my friend. By 11 a.m., we were finished, and as noon approached, I knew it was time for the final act. I bought flowers and chocolates and made my way to her workplace, a skinningly sweet gesture that would make everyone else believe we were just another happy couple. But they didn't know what she had done. They didn't see the pain she had caused me. I walked in, presented her with the gifts, gave her a hug and a kiss like nothing was wrong. Her co-workers smiled and cooed at our display of love. Little did they know it was all an act. I told her not to make any plans for the evening because I had something special planned for us. But before leaving, I made sure to say goodbye to fucking Tom, her boss who had been having an affair with my wife. A smug smile played on my lips as I waved at him and left. At 2 p.m., while my wife was being served at work by a deputy, I stood in front of Tom's house. I couldn't resist sending him a photo I had taken on the day I caught them together, a reminder of the destruction they had caused. And then, just to solidify my revenge, I took a selfie in front of his house and sent it to him. Justice had been served. I stood on the doorstep, my knuckles white against the wooden door as I anxiously waited for Mrs. F.T. to answer. I knew her from various parties and events my wife's work had hosted, but we were never close. With a deep breath, I mustered up the courage to tell her the truth, that her husband and my wife were having an affair. Mrs. F.T.'s eyes widened in shock as I showed her a picture of them together and a selfie they took while my wife was performing a sexual act on him on our couch. And then she did something I didn't expect. She slapped me across the face before bursting into tears. Feeling guilty and ashamed, I handed her a thumb drive containing all the evidence I had gathered about my wife's infidelity. I also warned her that my wife was cheating with multiple men and advised her to get tested for sexually transmitted disease. After giving her my lawyer's card and number, Mrs. F.T. asked why I would do this to her. As I struggled to find an honest answer, my phone began buzzing incessantly. Ignoring the calls and texts, I headed home and changed my Facebook status to divorced. Once safely back at home, I started reading through the messages from my wife. Confused and hurt, I messaged her that she could come by at 7 p.m, not a minute earlier, to collect her belongings. It wasn't until later that night that my wife finally found out about me telling Mrs. F.T. She sent me a furious text cursing me out for betraying her trust. But it turns out that Mrs. F.T. hadn't immediately told her. She had her own problems to deal with first. My so-called friend, who helped cover up for my wife, let's call her Amber, also reached out to me in anger. Finally fed up with all the lies and deceit, I answered her call. And when I asked her how long she had known about my wife's affair with Tom, she told me something that shattered my world. As it turns out, they had been together since before my wife and I even met. I was nothing more than a side piece in my own marriage. It was a sickening realization. My entire marriage was a cruel and twisted joke. I couldn't believe that Amber had known the truth all this time and kept it from me because she didn't want to upset her friend. But what about me? Wasn't I supposed to be her friend too? Through tears and anger, I asked her why she hadn't told me sooner. She said it was because they were afraid I would become violent if I found out. But I reminded her that she knew me better than that. I would never harm anyone. She simply replied that she did it to protect her friend. But what about protecting me? Didn't I deserve to know the truth as well? When I asked if she would have wanted me to tell her if our situations were reversed, she hesitantly admitted that yes, she would have wanted to know. As everything finally began to sink in, I realized just how much of a fool I had been. My whole marriage was built on lies and secrets, and it was all crashing down around me. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but at least now I knew the truth, and from this point forward, I vowed to never let myself be played for a fool again. With trembling hands, I hung up the phone and sent her pictures my wife had taken of her and her husband. The photos were a cruel reminder of the betrayal that had unfolded before my eyes. I texted her back with my lawyer's number, a final act of defiance against her deceitful actions. I made it clear that my lawyer now had all the information I knew. As the sun began to set, my wife showed up at the house and discovered the changed locks. She started banging on the door, her cries echoing through the empty house. I stood inside, refusing to answer or acknowledge her presence. She tried calling again and again, but I turned off my ringer. Hours later, as darkness descended upon us, 2 deputies parked outside my home. One of them was a friend who had helped me move earlier that day. His wife also arrived, lending support to both him and myself. My wife appeared once again, her demeanor subdued after what I can only assume was an altercation with Amber. I handed her a bag filled with her clothes, along with the key to our storage unit and my lawyer's card. From now on, all communication would go through her. But as soon as she saw the lawyer's card, my wife burst into tears and pleaded for forgiveness. She claimed it was all a mistake, that she still loved me, and it didn't mean anything. The more she spoke of love and reconciliation, the more I felt my anger resurface. Her words turned into curses and insults directed towards me. The noise attracted the attention of our neighbors, their faces peering out from behind curtains to witness this domestic chaos. Despite her physical and emotional outbursts, I remained calm, keeping my hands at my sides. But as she continued to lash out at me, unable to control her emotions fueled by alcohol, I learned something new about my wife. She could throw a mean right hook, leaving me with a fat lip and a bloody nose. My only reaction was to stand still and let her release her fury. The deputies intervened, restraining her and offering to press charges, but I declined, simply asking them to make her leave. They filed an incident report so I could obtain a temporary restraining order, but I couldn't help feeling grateful for her violent outburst. As soon as she left, I retreated inside the house. As I cleaned myself up, the emotions that had been building up over the past 2 months finally hit me like a tidal wave. Exhaustion washed over me, both physically and emotionally. Despite thinking that I would feel better after this confrontation, I felt worse than ever before. The weight of everything that had happened crashed down on me all at once. Tears flowed freely down my cheeks, something I never would have expected from myself. My phone had accumulated nearly 600 unanswered texts and calls from my wife and others seeking to mediate our situation. But for now, I needed space from our mutual friends and their attempts to mend our broken relationship. I couldn't bring myself to call my son last night, as I always did. Tonight, I will tell him what has happened and face his potential disappointment, though deep down, I know he never liked her much anyway. Update number 3. I had a meeting with her and her lawyer today. It wasn't exactly what I had hoped for, but it was enough. We signed the papers for an uncontested divorce, which will be official in about 2 months. That's the good news, but I still feel a sense of sadness and relief at the same time. During the entire process, she avoided looking at me. I can only speculate on her thoughts, but I like to believe that she couldn't face me. Her lawyer was competent, but he knew he was handed a difficult case. They asked if there was any chance of reconciliation, and although we entertained the idea, it's not possible. We also requested full disclosure of her actions. She had already written everything down, but it was less than what I already knew. When I read it, I noticed that the 2 men whose identities I didn't know were not mentioned at all. My lawyer presented photos from camera footage and asked who these men were. She was not forthcoming with him either. They asked us to step out while they discussed something privately. When we returned, my lawyer told me the truth. Those two men were recent online hookups, and she had been having an affair with Tom throughout most of our relationship up until about a year into our marriage. She claims to have ended things after I proposed, and I want to believe her on that. Even though I shouldn't trust anything she says, I did ask if she had ever been faithful during our marriage. She began having an affair with FP, my co-worker, Amber's husband, on July 4th of 2019. We were having a barbecue to celebrate Independence Day, and she gave him oral sex at my house while I was there. She admitted she didn't love him. She just enjoyed the thrill of it all. As the year went on, she became more brazen and started hooking up with random men from online sites. I'm pretty sure she had some encounters in parking lots and other questionable places, but I didn't want to push for details. During our meeting with the attorneys, I asked for some privacy so I could ask her some personal questions. They left the room, and I confronted her about why she cheated and why she agreed to marry me. Why didn't she just say no? She claimed she loved me, but her actions showed otherwise. She wanted the security of marriage, and I was good in bed, but her true love was Tom, whom she has been in love with for 10 years. He wasn't leaving his wife, and her biological clock was ticking. So I was essentially a financial provider for her. She said I made her happy, but ultimately she wanted what she wanted. To those who have asked, both soon-to-be ex-wife and FP have been fired from their jobs due to Amber raising a fuss at work. I didn't need to do anything. It all came crashing down on them naturally. Soon-to-be ex-wife is now living with her parents, and I have no idea what is going on with Tom and Mrs. Tom. I was told it's none of my business, but if he chooses to stay married, there may be consequences. I asked if there was anything else I should know, and that's when she dropped another bombshell. 2 years ago, she had an abortion because she wasn't sure who the father was. This hit me hard as we had tried to have a child in the beginning of our relationship. We eventually decided to stop trying and just enjoy our sex life, but now I'll never know if that could have been my child. This was enough for me to walk out of the room. People may say I dodged a bullet, but I can't help but think about the child she took from me. If anyone has ever been in a boxing match, you know there comes a point where you're taking blow after blow, but you don't really feel them anymore. They're still causing damage, but the pain isn't as sharp as it was at first. That's how I feel right now, like I've been hit one too many times and everything is just numb. She could tell me she started the Chicago fire, and I wouldn't be surprised at this point. I called my lawyers back into the room. I instructed mine to move forward with Plan B. That meant taking my request for alimony off the table in order to reach an uncontested divorce agreement quickly. I wanted to add a condition that she must undo all the infidelities, but I knew it was futile. The recent abortion has been weighing heavily on my mind, and I don't want any reminders of her, even in the form of a monthly paycheck. So at 5:43 p.m., she signed the papers. 2 months from now, it will all be official. I keep my house, my retirement funds, and all my belongings, while she gets $73,000 from our savings. She is never to contact me again, and we are done. I don't care what happens to her from here on out. She needs professional help for her own sake and for anyone she meets in the future. But I am no longer invested in her well-being. I can't say that a weight has been lifted off of me. It feels like I've just eaten a shit sandwich, and that's all I can taste right now. I haven't had anything to be happy about in 3 months, and I don't see any happiness in my foreseeable future either. That abortion has been constantly on my mind since she told me about it. It's going to haunt me for a long time. I have no idea what my plans are for the immediate or distant future. Maybe when this divorce is finalized, I'll feel some sense of release, but for now, All I want is to be left alone. No more sympathy or condolences, just peace and quiet. Throughout this whole ordeal, I've been reflecting on everything I've ever done and can only see where things went wrong instead of where they went right. It's a terrible mindset to have, but it's what's left after everything has fallen apart. All I can say is that at least I got to keep my possessions this time, but I never want to go through this again. Update number 4. I received my official divorce decree in the mail today, although there were delays due to the severe snowstorm. Surprisingly, I feel neither happy nor sad about it. Some friends wanted to celebrate this milestone, but I don't see failure as a cause for celebration. I'm feeling numb right now, but I know the emotions will hit me at some point. She called me today, and I answered. There's no use dwelling on what's already done. She didn't even apologize. She asked what good it would do. I can't say for sure if she truly regrets how she treated me, but it doesn't matter anymore. Her family situation is difficult too. My son was as close to having a grandchild as they'll ever get. He's asked if it's okay to stay in touch with them, and I have no problem with that. But how do I talk to them without her being part of the conversation? These people just ruin everything, don't they? I really liked her dad. He was like having relatives from my side of the family for my son. Also, my little Chihuahua, now named Dulce, kept me warm during Snowmageddon. We were without power or heat for 5 days in freezing temperatures, but she snuggled up in bed and kept us both warm like a champ. Anyway, I think I need a break from here for a while. Maybe until I'm ready to start dating again or looking for something casual. That nagging doubt has always been in the back of my mind. She doesn't love me, she'll leave, she'll hurt me, and now it's screaming at me. But right now, I'm doing okay. That fear of getting burned by the stove is actually a good thing. It reminds me to take my time and not jump into anything. I need a lot of time to heal, and I'm going to give myself that. I wish all of you the best. Just because we've been through tough times doesn't mean we are worthless. Stay strong, my friends. I love all of you.